Welcome to the session on religion and human rights. My name is Abdul Ghaffar Karim. I'm the convener of this conference. I'm also the head of the Department of Politics and Government. Before we start the session, just a couple of housekeeping things. So the restroom is right around the corner. If you need to go to the toilet, you just walk across the parking hall and then turn left. So there will be both male and female restroom in there. And this morning, this session will be hosted by Dr. Huria, the Executive Director of the Center for Political Studies at the University of Indonesia, who is also the coordinator of Indonesian Scholar Network on Religious Freedom. Okay, so this session will be 90 minutes, and Dr. Huria will handle all the session here. Dr. Huria, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mas Ghaffar. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to be here to welcome you in the session. Mas Ghaffar already introduced me, so I don't have to introduce myself. Before we start the panel, I would like to give a little brief of introduction to this panel. As you all know that this panel is entitled of religion and human rights, and we know that this topic is particularly important because of the interconnectedness between religion, politics, and human rights. And in the discourse of political and religious studies, religion is sometimes said to be the root of international conflict, and sometimes it is a resource for peacemaking. And to some, religion also underlies human rights abuses. To others, it is the foundation of universal respect and love. And in terms of human rights, we also know that even though religious freedom is already accepted as a universal value and a fundamental human rights, yet in practice, the implementation of religious freedom is not always in line with the constitutional promises. And it happens in almost all countries in the world, including Indonesia. And it is, in fact, often restricted by the state, which consequently, of course, affected other rights of the citizens. And in this session, we will discuss the trend of interconnectedness between religion and politics, as well as the problem of religion and human rights. And in this panel, we will have 4 presenters. I will mention their names. The first one is Firmanda Taufik, doctoral student at the Islamic University of Yogyakarta, UIN Yogyakarta. He will be presenting his paper on human rights, sectarianism, and citizenship of Indonesia's Ahmadiyya. And he has also a co-author for his paper. The name is Mr. Ahalla Thaura from the National University of Singapore. And the second presenter will be Mr. Jamil Akhtar, an assistant professor of Islamic Studies in PU Lahore, Pakistan. He will be presenting his paper on religious freedom, a way to promote inter and intra-faith harmony for establishing a just society. And the third presenter would be Mr. Jasper Kaufman, a lecturer at the Department of Social Policy, Thammasat University, Bangkok. And his paper is entitled Secularism and Minorities, a comparative study of minority religion in Indonesia and Denmark. And also we have the last presenter, Mr. Addison Adrianus Sihombing, and also Romo Otto Gustin Degong Madung. Mr. Addison Adrianus Sihombing is a doctoral candidate from the State University of Jakarta, and Romoto is a rector of Institute of Filsafat and Teknologi Kreatif Ledalero. So in this panel, we have time until maximum at 12 at noon. Actually, we have time until 11:45, but the committee already said that we can have an extension of 15 minutes. And each speaker will have 15 minutes to deliver their presentations, including those who are co-author and author, yeah. And then we will continue to Q&A session. And also the session will be live streamed in DPP UGM, yeah, DPP UGM YouTube channel. So if you want to inform your colleagues to watch your presentation or to watch this panel, you can tell them to watch your presentation and this discussion through YouTube. And we will conduct Q&A session after all presenters deliver their speech. And for those who have questions, please please raise your hands and make your questions or comments short and direct to the presenter. So without further ado, I would like to invite all the presenters in front. Please welcome Mr. Firmanda Taufik and Mr. Ahala Saura. Please have a seat in front. You can pick any chair. Okay, and the second one, I would like to invite Mr. Jamil Akhtar. Please have a seat. And also Mr. Jasper Kaufman and Romo Otto. Yeah, the fourth presenter will be represented by Romo Otto. And by the way, Romo Otto is also a member of Indonesian Scholar Network on freedom of religion or beliefs. Okay. Once again, welcome all presenters. We will have around 1 hour, 1 hour for the presentation. Each presenter will have 15 minutes, but you will have to share your 15 minutes together, So who's gonna be the first presenter? Okay. Time is yours, Mr. Firmanda. Okay. Okay, please display the slide. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. In this session, we would like to deliver our presentation entitled Human Rights, Sectarianism, and Citizenship of Indonesia Ahmadiyya. This presentation is based on our observation and research. The first is introduction. The first, human rights are often a problem that's still homework for a country to solve, because human rights continue to experience developments and various cases remain unresolved. And the second is the Ahmadiyya case is one of the crucial cases, the crucial issues, because in Indonesia many cases about the vigilantist groups and minorities groups, especially Ahmadiyya. And then as a minority group, Ahmadiyya groups are marginalized and rejected by some circles who don't like them, and their group, it is Ahmadiyya, attacks and discrimination against the Ahmadiyya community have made them homeless, because Ahmadiyya community in Indonesia, especially in very region, the issue of citizenship. The third is the issue of citizenship is also an important issue, because Ahmadiyya group is rejected and rejected by the state, because because their identity, the issue of identity cards or KTP is one of the problems that must be faced by them.
And the next is the government should be able to mediate and accommodate the Ahmadiyya groups, because the Ahmadiyya is one of the most minority groups in Indonesia, as a community that adheres to a certain sect and tends to be sectarian. Ahmadiyya has the same citizenship rights as adherents of other religions. And in this presentation, these articles, how to focus on human rights, accommodate Ahmadiyya groups and their citizenship status according to the government's perspective. And this effort is to look more about comprehensively and explore how the Ahmadiyya group overcome various persecution, rejection, and expulsion from society, or those who are against their group. And the next is human rights in Indonesia. We understand about after the Reformation, Reformasi is human rights issues also increased, and many groups that were previously banned by the Suharto government, and their existence and move more openly than before. And secondly is human rights cases in Indonesia often stagnate and don't find concrete solution, because violence, persecution, and rejection of minority groups are commonplace in the context of diversity and inter-society relation. And the third is several studies related to Ahmadiyya groups in Indonesia. It's the example of state that violence occurred due to the role of local elites that provoke violence and the involvement of local state officials in supporting people's mobilization to take justice into their own hands. And then the interesting point is the government also did not take a quick response to protect several cases related to minority groups, especially in these cases is Ahmadiyya group, because the local government carried out acts of violence and rejection of the Ahmadiyya groups. And the next is various human rights cases in Indonesia will continue to occur and will not be resolved if there are certain minority groups or individuals who struggle to uphold human rights and are alienated from society. And the next session about sectarianism and Islamic movement and citizenry of Indonesia, Ahmadiyya, will be delivered my co-authors, Hala Solo. Thank you.
Thank you, Firmanda. Okay, I will stand here. Is better. Okay. Yeah. If you have seen from the screen on the right side of the scene, maybe if you're familiar with the Jalsa in the UK last 2 months, where our Indonesian intellectuals and some leaders attended the meeting in the UK, talking about the Ahmadiyya. This is a quite brave move by our leaders in terms of acknowledging the Ahmadi group in Indonesia as they taking part into a global conference in the UK. And on the right side, also at that time, Indonesian scholar Professor Najib Burhani also elaborate during that meeting to start that how to convince Indonesian community that Ahmadiyya is also part of Indonesian and also part of the Muslim community. It still have to make a struggle to convince the community that they can be live together as a community. Next. So these are works by Indonesian scholars who already managed to write on how Ahmadiyya developed or started to operate in Indonesia till now. And one of the book that with me today is from a friend of mine from Setara. They wrote on Jemaat Ahmadiyya Indonesia. Among other things that I also got involved in one of the case in Sintang in 2021, where attack on mosque and also burning logistic of Ahmadiyya was happening there, and it's really tragic to see that our brothers in in Borneo affected from these negative issues. Next. Among many underlying problems of the Ahmadiyya group is about the citizenships, as my colleague mentioned earlier, is about how state, in terms of a local state, do not recognize the Ahmadiyya group. We refer this to the identification of Ahmadiyya community to the ID, national ID, or we called KTP earlier. And the public at that time, in many cases in West Java and also Borneo to some extent, people in that region didn't recognize these people, as their name identification of Ahmadiyya do not put into the column of the national ID. So instead, we saw that the social identity is very crucial in our community, as it is the meaning of how to show the identity of Ahmadiyya group as a citizen of Indonesia, which is recognized by the constitutions. So just like the Shia group, which also the as Islam minority sect in Indonesia, they have a right to be recognized by the community, whereas the authority and also some religious group reject this group. Next. So these are the problematic area that we are address. The three areas that we are looking at. First is about the limitation towards the human right of Ahmadiyya followers, which still undecided by law. Until now, the constitution did not recognize this group, and this lead to another justification of persecution in public. So there are also a military involvement in dealing with Ahmadi group, which violates the mission and the function of military as a guardian of the security and peaceful condition in society. And also the norm of substance that has derogated a plenty of constitutional right of Ahmadi. Let me show you how the constitutions of how the local government issued their letter which justify the persecution, and also translate into the religious extreme group into justifying the attack. It is so that they didn't recognize the Ahmadiyya group as mentioned by the constitution, and then keep repeating this until they justified attacking the Ahmadiyya group. Next. So we also looking at how the sealed mosques of Ahmadiyya also still happening around Indonesia. Some of them are still happening till now. And some mosques from the West Java and Borneo is our case studies, like Masjid Al Furqan in Kuningan, and also Masjid Istiqomah in Banjar, all been sealed by the local government, and some of them already released, but these 5 that we still concerned, and the case is still happening. Next. Do we still have time? Okay, next. Next was okay. So in dealing with this case, we try to make a spectrum between those who fight for the Ahmadiyya group and those who against. In the case of how we deal with the human rights issues, we often look into the actors who play a vital roles in dealing with the case of Ahmadiyya. The first from the opponents group is always the extreme and radical religious organizations, which always trigger the public and also keep disseminating to public that Ahmadiyya is considered a deviant in Islamic group, and also some religious figures that are very intolerant, and also some the politician. And those who support this group is majority from the Legal Aid Foundation, the NGO, and some religious figures which are very tolerant and moderate in terms of addressing this case. Next. So we come up into the our last slides that shows that the study on Ahmadiyya shows that the Ahmadiyya survival might depend highly on countering and responding to negative narrative that are dominated by the conservative Muslim group, and the persecution toward Ahmadiyya will continue as long as the central government neglect intolerant policies applied by local government as well as intolerant religious group justifying to persecute Ahmadiyya. And it remains to be seen that whether Ahmadiyya will get recognition as citizen, as the government still have underlying problem in seeing an Islamic sect as a different community, whereas at the same time, keep conducting interfaith dialogue and religious moderation. This from us. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mas Firmanda and Mas Ahala, for your interesting presentation and also an effective one. Both of you telling us about the struggle of Ahmadiyya community in Indonesia in search of not only recognition but also the rights to uphold religious belief. Okay, for the second presenter, I would like to invite Mr. Akhtar. Please, you have 15 minutes.
Assalamu alaikum. Although my presentation is a little bit long, but I will wind up it within the stipulated time. The main topic is religious freedom, a way to promote interfaith and intrafaith harmony for establishing a just society. Next one. The question, do we live in a fair and equitable society? An introduction to social justice. Next, please. Introduction. The introduction, includes two main things. Number one is the definition, and the second one is importance. Definition. The topic religious freedom, the definition of religious freedom encompasses the inherent right of individuals and communities to hold, practice, and express their religious belief without discrimination or persecution. It affirms the sanctity of an individual's inner spiritual journey and the freedom to outwardly manifest those beliefs. And what is the significance of this religious freedom? The significance of religious freedom in contemporary society. Religious freedom assumes profound significance. It serves as a crucial fortification against religious discrimination and intolerance. By protecting an individual's right to practice their faith openly and without fear, religious freedom establishes the groundwork for a pluralistic society where diverse religious traditions coexist harmoniously. Next, please. Yeah, this one. Contextualizing the relevance of religious freedom in contemporary society, the previous one, please. Yeah. In the complex tapestry of contemporary society, the relevance of religious freedom stands as a vital pillar in the hunt of a just and inclusive social order. Religious freedom encourages a pluralistic echoes, as we can see in the pictures. A pluralistic echoes where individuals are free to explore and express their beliefs. In the context of a globalized world, religious freedom is also essential in addressing issues of cultural diversity and multiculturalism, and you can see in the picture. The next one, please. Religious freedom as a fundamental human right. Religious freedom as protected in international law is a fundamental human right that grants individuals and communities the autonomy to practice, profess, and manifest their religious beliefs. This right extends beyond personal convictions, encompassing the ability to observe religious rituals and express faith openly. It has three main points. The first one is historical development and evolution of religious freedom. Can you please next? The concept of religious tolerance emerged sporadically with notable examples in ancient Persia and India, where rulers like Cyrus the Great and Emperor Ashoka respectively promoted religious diversity. The Edict of Milan, as we can see in the picture, the Edict of Milan in 313 AD, issued by Roman emperors Constantine and Licinius, marked a pivotal moment in history, declaring tolerance for all religions within the Roman Empire. During the early year of Islam, During the early year of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad and his companions granted religious freedom to various communities under Islamic rule. Umayyads and Abbasis caliphates continued the practice of allowing non-Muslims to practice their religions. The American Constitution's First Amendment enhanced religious freedom as a fundamental right, setting a precedent for modern democratic society. In the 20th century, international bodies like the United Nations affirmed religious freedom as a universal human right. This historical journey of religious freedom reflects a gradual progression for limited toleration to its recognition as a fundamental human right. The second point is international legal frameworks and declarations. International legal frameworks and declarations of religious freedoms are essential for understanding how countries address issues related to religious freedom and human rights. Here are some famous international legal framework of 20th century. Number one, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. It is foundational document for human rights adopted by the United Nations in 1948. Many Islamic countries are signatories to it and have incorporated its principle into their legal system. Article 18 of this declaration clearly states that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. The International Covenant, the previous one, please. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The previous one. Yeah, this one. The International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, which is adopted in 1966, reaffirms the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Cairo Declaration on Human Rights in Islam. This declaration was adopted by the member states of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation in 1990. While it affirms the importance of human rights, it also asserts that these rights should be consistent with Islamic law. These legal instruments have not only established religious freedom as a universal recognized human right, but have also provided a basis for holding nations accountable for violations. The next point is case studies illustrating violations of religious freedom. Case studies serves as compelling evidence of the persistent challenges surrounding religious freedom in various regions of the world. One such saddening example is the plight of the Uyghur Muslims minority in China's Shenzhen province. Another pertinent case study involves the Rohingya Muslim community in Myanmar. The 2070 crackdown by the Myanmar military. These case studies underscore the complex and multifaceted nature of violations against religious freedom. Understanding the specific context and dynamics of these cases is essential in formulating effective strategies for the protection and promotion of religious freedom worldwide. The third main point, next point, the importance of religious freedom for interfaith harmony. The nexus between religious freedom and interfaith harmony forms a critical linchpin in fostering peaceful coexistence among diverse faith traditions. Recognizing and safeguarding the right of individuals to practice their religion without discriminations serves as a cornerstone for nurturing mutual understanding, respect, and cooperation between different faith communities. The first point is exploring the concept of interfaith harmony. Central to the concept of interfaith harmony is the recognition that while faith traditions may differ in their doctrines and practices, there exists a shared humanity that transcends religious boundaries. Interfaith harmony is not limited to theoretical discussions, but finds practical expressions in collaborative initiatives. The second point is examples of religious tolerance and cooperation between different faiths. Here are some examples of religious tolerance: the Coexistence Trust in UK, Interfaith Youth Corps in USA, the Multi-Faith Center in Canada, Forum for Promoting Peace in Muslim Society in UAE. These examples showcase that religious tolerance and cooperation are not limited by geographic or cultural boundaries. These demonstrate that individuals and organizations around the world are actively working towards building bridges of understanding and mutual respect between different faith traditions. After 2 slides. Next, next, and then next. Next, and then next. This point, the third point, analyzing regions with successful interfaith relations and the role of religious freedom. Regions with successful interfaith relations often share a common thread, a robust commitment to religious freedom. One such exemplar is Singapore, a multicultural nation where diverse faiths coexist harmoniously. Similarly, Lebanon, though not without its challenges, has a historical rich tapestry of religious diversity. The country's political system ensures representation and participation for all faith communities. The next point, the role of religious freedom in intra-faith harmony. The next. The first one is defining intrafaith harmony and its significance. Definition. Intrafaith harmony encompasses the unity, mutual respect, and cooperation among individuals and groups within the same religious traditions. Significance. Interfaith harmony is of paramount importance as it engenders a sense of unity and purpose among members of a particular religious traditions. It cultivates an environment where individuals can engage in open dialogue, exchange perspectives, and collectively address common challenges. Next point, please. Case studies showcasing conflict within a particular faith traditions. Conflicts within a specific faith tradition serve as compelling case studies, shedding light on the nuanced dynamics that can arise even among co-religionists. The Protestant Reformation in 16th century Europe is a paradigmatic example. Martin Luther's theological descent led to the splintering of Western Christianity into various Protestant denominations. Similarly, within Islam, the Sunni-Shia divide has been a source of enduring tension. These case studies exemplify that even within a shared faith tradition, diverse interpretations and historical disagreements can give rise to profound conflicts. The next point, please. Demonstration how religious freedom can mitigate intra-faith tensions. Religious freedom plays a crucial role in mitigating intra-faith tensions, particularly within Christianity and Islam, where divergent interpretations have historically led to conflicts. In Christianity, the schism between Catholics and Protestants serve as an illustrative case. Within Islam, the Sunni-Shia divide and the difference between Deobandi, Brahmi, and Shafi'i sects provide additional examples. In both Christianity and Islam, religious freedom acts as a catalyst for mutual respect and understanding. The next point, please. Okay, thank you. Religious freedom as a foundation for a just society. The first point is establishing a link between religious freedom and justice. The second point is, next please, addressing issues of discrimination and marginalization based on faith. Addressing issues of discrimination and marginalization based on faith is a critical imperative for the establishment of a just society. The third point, next please, next please, next. Yeah. Examining societies where religious freedom has contributed to social justice. Societies where religious freedom has flourished often provide compelling case studies of its positive impact on social justice. The United States is a notable example. Muslim societies that have championed religious freedom provide compelling examples of its positive impact on social justice. Indonesia, the world's largest Muslim majority nation, stands out as a paradigmatic case with a diverse religious landscape, including substantial Christian, Hindu, and Buddhist communities. Indonesia's commitment to religious freedom has fostered an environment of coexistence and harmony. This inclusivity has been integral in efforts to address social justice issues, particularly concerning minority rights and religious pluralism. The next and last one is conclusion, the key points. In conclusion, this paper has elucidated the pivotal role of religious freedom in promoting harmonious relations both between different faith traditions and within specific religious communities. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. for giving us information on the importance of religious freedom, not only to promote interfaith harmony, but also to promote intra-faith harmony as well. Okay, now we will move to the third presenter, Mr. Jesper Kolfman. I forgot to mention that Mr. Jesper Kolfman is also a postdoc fellow researcher at Universitas Jember, Indonesia, and he's currently doing research on the Center of Human Rights and Migration at the University of Jember. Please, Mr. Kolfman, you have 15 minutes.
Societies. Okay. Oh, I'll manage. Okay. So generally, our society starts to look more and more alike. At the same time, contradictory to that, or because of that, we observe an increased nationalism, and in the Western countries, which otherwise does not have a conscious adherence to Christian values, Christian religion motives become more and more visible. And by contrast, Islamic countries construct a stronger unity, the Ummah, and they identify themselves with an Islamic civilization. Overall, we can say that the majority of Western countries describe themselves as secular, where less than half of Muslim countries will describe themselves as secular. Secularism is fundamentally understood as a separation of state and religion, or religious institutions. This division is believed to secure peace and social harmony. It is based on this move away from God-centered reasoning to man-made reasoning. And by so we have moved religious matters to the private sphere. A very famous quote from Rawls goes that we must take the religious truth off the political agenda. The state has a superior moral authority, and we must establish a religious neutral community. Today, this definition of secularism is generally less stringent. Commentators do not employ a clear separation between state and religion when we talk about secularism. According to Charles Taylor, the state should be impartial. It might be involved, but it should be impartial, and it should provide equal opportunities for various religious groups to participate in the public discourses. However, as states increasingly include different ethno-religious groups, equal acceptance or equal acceptance by governments of all religions becomes at the same time a demand, but also a huge challenge for governments to meet. And this challenge is particularly true in countries with what we can call a state religion. At the same time, we also see that there is an increasing claim by, and that's particularly by Muslim communities, that we should allow local governments to interpret national laws as frame laws, and then by so allow those interpretation of the frame laws to be in accordance with local cultures and customs. Another issue is nationalism. And as I said, we increasingly see religion intertwined with nationalism to the extent that institutional logic of religions become the basis of the legitimizing of a state. And that is very true in Indonesia as well as in Denmark. Much has been written about secularism and minority religions. In this study, I have tried to make a direct comparison between a Muslim and a Christian country, and in this case, a comparison between Denmark and Indonesia. And of course, this is a very, very asymmetrical model. I'm perfectly aware of that and the shortcomings of my study because of this. But I've chosen these two countries and justified by saying that each of those two countries are role models. The Danish welfare state is internationally admired, and Denmark has been at the forefront of advocating individual liberal rights. Opposite to this, Indonesia is the role model of an Islamic country with an establishment of a liberal democracy, phrasing religious tolerance and cultural diversity. And can you go back, one slide back? Okay, so as you can see, 6 million people. What's Jakarta? 20 million, right? Very small. Muslims make up about 5%, basically all immigrant, first, second generation immigrants, and basically originally with a refugee status. Christians make up about 8% in Indonesia. And I forgot to say that my comparison, when I talk about minority religions, I focus on Christians in Indonesia, Muslims in Denmark. An immensely big difference in wealth between the two countries. So the political system, we have a presidential system in Indonesia, we have parliamentary system in Denmark. State ideology, I would say that Pancasila is the state ideology of Indonesia, and part of that is this theistic state, or a theistic secular state, the belief in one supreme God, and that is a fundamental, we can say, of the organization of the society and very much of how we look at religious communities in Indonesia. Oh, somebody has pressed it. Yes. Oh. Okay. Oh, you're too fast. Okay. And the belief in Denmark, basically, it's a belief in the welfare state, in equality, in equal social status. So that is the ideology, the fundamental idea of the Danish state. In Indonesia, there is officially a clear separation between state and religion. In Denmark, we have a state church, a Lutheran church, which is 100% funded by the Danish government. Good. Political life. Oh. There, the next one. Stay there. Don't move. Okay. So we have this separation, but if we look at the political life in Indonesia, the political life is totally dominated by religious or Muslim parties, where in Denmark there is no religious involvement in politics. The same with the administration. We can see that we have Islamic influence in the administration, in the bureaucracy in Islam, where there's no such thing in Denmark. Equally, if we look at education, in Indonesia, we have two arms of state schools. We have a secular state school, and we have an Islamic state school. In Denmark, there is only one, and it's, we can say, also non-religious. I know it's not your fault, it's, I don't know what it is. So, next one. And the next one. And see if we can stay there. So, we can, and when it comes to free schools, both countries actually support financially free schools, religious free schools, and we have Muslim free schools in Denmark. 80% of those schools are funded by the, or 80% of the cost is funded by the government. Religious education, we have mandatory confessional teaching in Indonesia. We in Denmark, we have a course in elementary school and lower secondary school called Knowledge of Christianity, which basically is a course where students are taught about different worldviews. It is not confessional, and it's not mandatory. So basically, if we look at this, we can see that officially there is a division between state and religion in Indonesia, which we do not have in Denmark. But if we look at the political life and education, there's a bigger involvement of religion in Indonesia than in Denmark. So what I will say is that I would not see any of the two countries practicing secularism as according to the definitions I have used. Both countries favor the majority religion, and also both countries would basically identify themselves according to their major religion. And I actually forgot there was one thing missing here, very important thing. And that is, in both countries, when we look at government giving permission to build places of worship, in both countries it's up to the discretion of local authorities, particularly in Denmark. In Denmark, it's a local authority who make the decision basically on the basis, on the mood of the day, on sympathy or non-sympathy. Okay. So while secularism in Indonesia has been employed to secure religious pluralism and harmony between different communities, in line with what I would say postmodernism and according to the Pancasila, the aim of secularism in Denmark is much more radical, as it functions to sustain a homogeneous population, a belief in a set of indisputable liberal values and norms, and keep religion as the backdrop of the Danish culture. It's all about saving the welfare state. It's all about saving a homogeneous population and the idea of the welfare state. We can also say that the two countries display differences in the discourse strategies. Individual rights only give meaning in the political and secular discourse because they refer to a reality which is closely related with the nation state. The Muslim discourse only provides meaning within the believer's religious reality that exceeds the affiliation to the idea of nation state. So the Muslim discourse has in reality very minimal impact on the relationship between the triangle, people, state and religion in Denmark, whereas in Indonesia you will have to balance between these two strategies. The Danish welfare state is synonymous with the nation state, and the debate...
Mr. Kaufman, you have 2 more minutes.
Yes,
okay.
And the debate is therefore about the level of inclusion of liberal ideas and the saving of the fundamental principle of the nations. Most notable are these principles are freedom of speech, thought, and equality. The accepted Muslim is therefore what I would call a relaxed Muslim. In Indonesia, the discussion on secularism is not restricted to a secular political arena. The nature of the theistic secularism and Islam invites religious institutions to be part of the debate, and the regulation of secularism is not solely the domain of the secular political sphere, but is increasingly orchestrated by institutions representing the Islamic community. And thereby, whether we talk about Indonesia and Denmark, religious minorities become less and less relevant in that perspective. Thank you.
Mr. Kaufman, for providing us a very interesting information and comparison between Indonesia and Denmark in terms of how the government regulate religion in public life. Okay, we have now the fourth presenter, Romo Otto. You also have 15 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, you all, and welcome to this presentation. The title of my talk is Human Rights and Views of Catholic Church under Habermas Discourse Theory, Discovering Common Ground in Differences. This article was composed by 3 authors, I myself, Edison, and Mr. Zainuddin. And this article aims to explain the views of the Catholic Church on human rights and put them into dialogue with the concept of human rights based on discourse theory as put forward by Jürgen Habermas. And I think you all know Jürgen Habermas. He's a German philosopher who develops the discourse theory of ethics, discourse theory of democracy, and discourse theory of science. According to Habermas, discourse is a method how to find out the truth in the science as well. Yeah. And discourse theory of ethics is, I think it is an experimentation of Habermas to face the pluralistic society characterized by a pluralism of ideology, religious points of view, or a pluralism of comprehensive doctrine. And in such a society, we are facing the question what can bring us together ethically. And Habermas thinks that we cannot build ethical substance because ethical substance, it belongs to comprehensive doctrines or metaphysical comprehensive doctrines, and in a pluralistic society, we cannot define a unity of a metaphysical ethical point of view. That is why the discourse theory of ethics tries to provide a procedure how to find a common sense or common ground in which we can live together peacefully. And my presentation is divided into 5 parts: introduction, and the second point is the dialectic or the dialectical relationship between religion and democratic law state. And thirdly, historical review of the relationship between theological views of Catholic Church and human rights. And the last point is discourse theory criticism on religion-based human rights grounding. What is human rights? Human rights are generally defined as universal, egalitarian, individual, and categorical rights. It is a global consensus, yeah? But in practice, however, disputes regarding the idea of human rights are always contentious. Some people feel that human rights guarantee the shared hope of a global community. Others argue that the notion of human rights is only a byproduct of Western liberal society. As a result, a dualism of opinion underpins human rights that between cultural relativism and absolutism. Yeah? In this article, I try to deal with the question by introducing three paradigms of human rights, or how to deal with the problem of universality of human rights. The first paradigm is the cultural relativism paradigm, and the second is the absolutism paradigm, and the last one, and I will defend the last one, is the discourse theory paradigm, or the discourse theory based of or human rights, yeah, or the way how the discourse theory grounds the universality of human rights. From the point of view of cultural relativism, the position of human rights applies only to certain cultural system and are specific to local cultural values. I think it is common, yeah, among us that human rights are believed as Western values. That is why, and they are not compatible to the Asian values, because we emphasize the importance of community life, the principle gotong royong, something, or harmony. And the principle of human rights are liberal and tend to create conflict, and it is not compatible to our culture. Yeah. And the second paradigm is the absolutism paradigm, and the Catholic Church thinks, or the Catholic points of view thinks that the ground of human rights is human dignity, and the concept of human dignity comes from the concept of man as image of God, yeah? Imago Dei in Latin, Imago Dei, and we can talk about human rights as an imperative, as a categorical imperative, because it is grounded in the image of man as image of God. Yeah? And the discourse theory perspective criticizes this kind of human rights, because what is human dignity, or what is image of God? It is a Catholic concept, and it cannot be accepted in secular world, as you explained before. In secular world, they don't recognize the concept of image of God. Yeah? And that is why the discourse theory tries to provide a procedure how to get a consensus, or to create a consensus in such a radical pluralist society. And I think for Indonesia it is very important. Religion is important in promoting human rights, but we cannot say that human rights is grounded in religion, because what kind of religion? There are thousands or perhaps millions of religions, or perhaps each of us has his own religion. I'm living in a religious congregation in Flores. There are 20 confreres. We are living together. We are Catholic. We are Catholic priests. But sometimes I think each of us has his own religion, because each of us has a concept of theology. But yeah, we have to live together and discuss, and we can build a community. The role of religion in promoting and upholding human rights is significant because religion serves as a source of motivation for citizens to abide by the Constitution and human rights. Yeah? It is important, but not the last ground of human rights. The presence of religion in institutional discourse also shows solidarity with fellow citizens, as human rights interpretation on religious secular discourse can sharpen and encourage religious morality to go beyond the religion's own communitarian solidarity, while sharpening commitment among adherents to take concrete action to better conditions of the vulnerable. Yeah? Religion is not the only ethical foundation of morality, but religion, I think, plays important role in promoting human rights, because it can motivate us to show our solidarity to the vulnerable people. And furthermore, I think in dealing with the concept of, or the idea of human rights, it is very important for religious communities, because human rights can question the doctrine of religions, and so that they can go beyond their own doctrine. Yeah. I think that is all, the main thesis of my presentation. It was the last presentation. I hope I could make it clearly enough. And as a last information, this article, we have submitted this article to the International Journal of Southeast Asian Human Rights in Jember University. When God will, it will be published at the end of the year. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Romo Otto. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we already listened to the presenters, to the all presenters, and heard from them a number of issues related to religion and human rights, from the conceptual and also philosophical discourses, country case studies, as well as comparative case studies on religious minority issues and religion and human rights. So for now, I would like to invite questions from the audience. We have around half an hour for discussion, so maybe I will invite 3 questions first. Okay, Mbak Nanda, and also, okay. And do we have another one? 2? Is there anyone else? Okay, we will invite Mbak Nanda and, okay, from you. The committee, please.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Nanda Saraswati. I'm from the Faculty of Law, Universitas Brawijaya in Indonesia, East Java, Malang. Thank you to all of the speakers today. It was a very wonderful and incitement presentation. I've learned a lot today. I have a question which is not particular to any of you, but anyone I would appreciate for your response. I can see, or we can agree that we say how religion has been a source of conflict for a very long time. And one of the factors that we can see today is how each and every person has their own interpretations of how to, implement their religious freedoms based on the doctrines and the religious books, whatever they might be. So I guess my question would be, how would you see this as a solution to this religion and human rights problem? Would you consider that to make this, one of the solutions is to have, a more progressive or different interpretations of most or each and every religious books? Would you agree on that statement? So my question is, to be the source of conflict, how can we resolve it? What is the solution that you can address, for instance, for the Ahmadiyya conflict and the doctrines on how people would understand and interpret it? Because we agree that every one of us has our own understanding, and we believe that our belief is the best belief compared to others. But how can we interpret this to be more, to have religious harmony, as you said earlier, Professor, from the Palestine? That is my question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mbak Nanda. So your question is addressed to all presenters, yeah? Okay, anyone? Okay. Maybe we can also invite, yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Junawir Syapar. I am from Gorontalo. Currently, I am one of the participants of fellowship, religion or beliefs conducted by CRCS UGM. I truly interested to all the speakers' presentation, but I have I think a special feedback to all the speakers associated to the human rights, that learning by Indonesian government experience, the good one way to accommodating like the rights of the minority, such as Ahmadiyya and also Confucian, it is like the way of top-down solution, which is the strong regulation by Indonesian government. It is successfully to accommodate the rights of the Confucianism. And so yeah, I have learned all of you like already to like state associated to the human rights maybe in different ways, but I personally truly believe that by the top-down solution, by the government solution is the good one way to accommodate the rights of the problem of the human rights, including the minority, rather than just by the movement of the communities or the bottom-up solution. I think the top-down is the good one. How about your like feedback about that? So I think that's all my feedback. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Junawirya. So you're giving us your opinion, but you also ask the presenter's opinion. Is there any other question before we let the presenters answer the questions? Okay, so who wants to start first? Okay, Mbak Nanda is asking about whether we can agree on the solution, yeah. Not only thinking that a religion is a conflict, is a source of conflict, but also how do we agree on the solution. And on the other hand, Mr. Junawir said that he agrees to the top-down solution from the state, and also asking your opinion about his opinion. Okay, thank you. So we start from...
Yeah, I would like to address what Mrs. Nanda has asked regarding the, we talk about religions as a religious discourse which has been constructed by religious figures mostly, and also some of the discourse that conducted by religious authority in terms of government, also religious figures or religious institutions. So somehow this makes public aware, and also some this institution convinced people to agree that the religious discourse conducted or happened in society is like this. So it creates like the doctrinal religions in terms of how people accept what they said by the religious elites. So at some point, this might be dangerous in terms of how the religious figures leads the society towards religious understandings and also teachings which somehow harmful and not. And I heard, I did write some points in terms of how religions can liberate people or can drive people in terms of how to help people for marginalized group or the poor people. One of the discourse called liberation theology. It originated from Latin America. I think to me that's one example of how religions can be not solution, can be drive in terms of helping the poor people or marginalized group. I forgot the names from Latin America. I forgot. I working on this 2 years ago, and this point of liberation theology becomes a side of religion that can help people in terms of how to deal with the human right. I think that's the good one. So religion can be a source of conflict, and at the same point can be a source of peaceful missions. And I think Indonesian government has been created like many forum on Religion 20 during the R20 last year. I don't know whether it is effective or not, but it depends on how, because religion somehow is organized by the religious elites, but in terms of looking at the grassroots level, they don't touch the ground. I think that has to be looking at to the down, to the grassroots level. Yeah, I think I can reply on that. Maybe Firman can have extra.
My response from my friends, Mas Junawir Safar, about the solution based on the government authorities, because the minority groups in Indonesia based on the authority how to manage and how to solve the problems, because many issues and many cases in Indonesia based on Syiah in Sampang and many others minority groups in Indonesia. But it is one important things. The NGO or LSM or what is Gus Durian and many others groups based on religious. This is one of the main solution, and how to strengthen the civil society and then minimize the problems on the cases in many issues based on Ahmadiyya, Syiah, and etc. So the government is one of the important thing, but NGO and LSM and many many groups and many religious groups also strengthen it and minimize the problems in many regions in Indonesia. This is my response. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mas Firmanda and Mas Ahala. So, Mr. Akhtar.
Thank you, Saraswati, for your question. It is really a very fantastic question, Saraswati. I would like to connect this question with another word, definitions. You have asked that why there is not a specific definition of religion, and why we cannot get on the same interpretation of different topics. So I will connect this definition of religion to the definition of terrorism as you can see that till now we are unable to come on one point about the definition of terrorism. We cannot define it. Muslims have their own definition of terrorism and the Westerns have their own. To burn a 500-bed hospital is not a terrorism according to Western. So I come to the point, the religion. Religion, we cannot bound the people on one definition. If we will try to bound the people on one definition, it cannot come just society. It cannot come justice in the society. We should create tolerance. We should give other opinions some space. Yeah, you can say that a government can play their role in it. Government can strict or formulate some rules and regulations, and it should be implemented in the state. You can see in the countries where the rules are very strict in regard to the religious freedom. The situation is very good, such as you can see in Indonesia. It is very peaceful country because the rules and regulations are very strict. But in Pakistan, although we have rules and regulations, but still these rules are not implemented. And we can see that when the Quran was burned by a non-Muslim Christian, the Muslims burned their houses. So the main answer of your question is that we should not bound the people on one definition. Yeah, but the government should formulate some rules and regulation to bring peace and harmony in the society. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay. The first question is basically a theological question, and I'm not, an expert on these matters. But the answer so far to your question has been secularism, right? But the problem with secularism is that it's often also described as a Christian way to practice religion. Christianity and secularism is often being synonymous. And the way we define secularism, it's, for instance, difficult to put Islam into it, because Islam is a religion that is practiced in the public life. But my point here would be, I would not leave it to the religions to solve that problem. But I don't know how. Your second question, and I'm very happy that you asked that question about the top-down solutions. And I'm not saying that I disagree with what you're saying, but I certainly don't agree. And I would bring the examples of what's happening in the Western world now, and also what's happening in Indonesia. Pancasila has worked brilliantly in Indonesia, but it was also something, it was a top-down, and it was forced down on Indonesia for 32 years under Suharto. Now democracy has been reintroduced, and what is happening? Now we have forces in the society that actually want to reduce that diversity and give more dominance to the majority religion. People have a choice now, and people perhaps react, and it tells me that by forcing something on people does not necessarily change people's mind. And what you see in Western Europe at the moment, where we have a strong movement of right-wing political parties, we see it in the US, you see it in Germany, in Sweden, Italy, not so much in Denmark, fortunately. But it's very much a reaction towards the liberal establishment. The establishment who have told the people to be tolerant, to be inclusive, to accept multiculturalism. And the laws has been implemented in order to support that policy. And now we see a strong reaction against it. I would have liked to talk about this if I had time, because my belief is that we cannot change these matters by law. We can change it within the cultures, but we do not change things by law. And if I have this opportunity also, I'm sure you all know about the burning of the Quran in Denmark. And now the government in Denmark will actually make it illegal to burn the Quran. This does not happen because it's the will of the people. It happens because of international pressure on Denmark and to be somehow in line and politically correct with the rest of the world. What will happen is, first of all, I also have I have this opportunity to say that 99% of people in Denmark is very, very much against what's happening. It's a madman, it's a sick mental madman in Denmark who has burned the Quran. But now the Danes feel that the freedom of speech has been restricted, right? And who restricted it? Islam. It's right. So we make a law, but there will now, where people have had no issues about the whole thing, now they have an opinion, because they don't like the law telling them what otherwise have been respected, because it has been common sense that of course you do not burn the Quran. But now there is a law saying you can't, and that's a different matter. And it developed a reaction now. So, in my opinion, the losers in Denmark now is the Muslim community, who otherwise have not been up in arms about it. So I would be very careful about top-down solutions, because if they are not in accordance with the sentiment of people, we will have a counter-reaction.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pokphand. Romoto?
Yeah, good. I try to address the question of Bananda from the Catholic perspective. Yeah, we are now conducting a synod in Rome. Yeah? It is a meeting of all bishops, cardinals, and lay people to solve some basic problems in the Catholic Church, such as how should the Church deal with LGBT people, and how is about the question of female priesthood, and some doctrinal question who in the past should not be discussed, but now the Pope Francis said we have to face the question and solve the problem, and of course they have to use the concept of human rights in dealing with the questions, dogmatic questions, and they have to see what the science says to the question of LGBT. Yeah? Because in the past, for example, the Catholic Church excluded Charles Darwin because his finding or his theory was against the dogma of the Catholic Church, or Galileo Galilei. Yeah? And I think I agree with Jürgen Habermas that discourse is the way how to find the truth as well, because the truth is always human constructed truth. Yeah, of course it is difficult to believe that it's not the case. And to the second question, I don't agree with the proposal, because I think the state has two obligations: to respect, to protect, and to promote the human rights. To respect means the state should not intervene in the private sphere of the citizens. And freedom of religion, it belongs to the liberal rights. And I think it should be practiced and practiced in Indonesia as well, because I don't like if someone tell me what religion I have to belong to. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Otto. Ladies and gentlemen, we still have 10 minutes before 12 a.m. Do we have any other question for the presenters? No? Okay, I think we are now come to an end of this panel discussion. Before I end this panel, I would like to highlight some of the presentations from the presenters. We have heard from Mas Firmanda and Mas Ahalaya the case of Indonesia's Ahmadiyya community and how they struggle not only to defend their religious freedom but also to assert the rights to have a free exercise of religious freedom. And we also see how societal actors, both sectarian movements and also moderate movements, become proponents and also opponents of the Ahmadiyya community in terms of religious freedom and the rights to uphold their religious freedom. And from Mr. Jamil Akhtar, we have heard from him about the importance of religious freedom, not only as a universal value, but also a way to promote both intra-faith and interfaith dialogue and relations. And it is also essential. And he also gave his observation that having interfaith dialogues and relations is possible, and the practice is found everywhere else in the world, even though we also see violation of religious freedom everywhere else in the world. And from Mr. Kaufman, it is very interesting to hear from here about his observation on the intertwine between nationalism and discrimination against religious minorities, and in particular the comparison between Denmark and Indonesia. And his presentation reminded me of the famous quote from Jeremy Menchik when he mentioned about a godly nationalism in Indonesia. And even one of Indonesian scholars said, it is almost impossible to imagine a public life without God in Indonesia. And this is also an issue that we have to address, and how we can, we can learn from other secular states to have maybe a peaceful coexistence between religion and politics and human rights. And from Mr. Romo Otto, it is very interesting to hear about the philosophical discourse and the dialectic of religion and the democratic law state in Indonesia. And talking about religious freedom, talking about religion is always, we are faced by a recurring contesting discourse. So it's like a never-ending debates between religion and human rights. And people will always challenge human rights. Like, even though we agree that human rights and religious freedom is a fundamental aspect of human rights, and many countries in the world uphold and accommodate religious freedom in their constitutional promises, but we also see the discrepancies, the gap between the constitutional promises and the actual practice of religious violation in many countries, including Indonesia, and especially in Indonesia for minority groups, as mentioned by Mr. Firmanda and Mr. Ahala. It's not easy to live as religious minority in Indonesia, because even though the desire for religious freedom is universal among the religious, but when you become religious majority, you would always prefer your religious values to become the dominant discourses, to be accommodated in state policy. And this is, I think, the problem that we have to address, and maybe we can discuss it in another discussion forum. Yeah. So once again, I would like to thank to all the presenter, Mr. Firmanda, Mr. Ahala, and Mr. Akhtar, and Mr. Kaufman and Romo Otto. And I also thank you to all of you, audience, to participate in this panel. And I hope this panel will be beneficial. And I'm glad that we have a fruitful discussion. So once again, I'm Huria, signing off from this panel. Thank you.